A late water resources outlook this month because the last few weeks have been a little busy around here in the southeast with some rainfall. Good news for many as we head into the summer. But today, Chris, Jeff, and I will end the month of April talking about where we stand and where we are going as May is almost here. Here's Jeff to talk about our recent rainfall.
Here's the 30-day past precipitation, so this pretty much encompasses the month of April. We see lots of red on the map, which means more than 5 inches of rainfall in the past month. Some isolated purples in there as well, and that is more than 10 inches of rain. So we see various parts of the region with the red wetter amounts in most areas with at least 2 inches, indicated by the yellow colors there. Parts of South Florida are the dry spot, with areas of south of Tampa seeing less than 2 inches over the past 30 days. So how does this compare to normal? Well, several areas again where we see above normal precipitation with very little yellow, highlighting that most of the southeast has seen at least normal rainfall for the month of April, and this has helped water resources in the region. And speaking of water resources, let's take a look at the various lakes in the region and how they compare to their target pools this time of year, which most are at their summer pools by May 1st. And we see in North Carolina, all the reservoirs shown here are at least a foot above their target pool, with Scott and Jordan there several feet above. This is mainly due to the recent rainfall and management of the water down these rivers, but this does bode well for summer, or at least early summer, for these reservoirs to be at their summer pools. In the South Carolina, same deal here, reservoirs near or above their target pools. We see the Savannah system there with all 3 of the reservoirs near their targets. The wet weather, especially in the headwaters of the Savannah, has helped them immensely to reach back to these levels. In the Georgia, we see Lake Lanier, the critical water resource lake for Georgia. It's a foot above their summer pool level, which is good news heading into early summer as far as water resources. Other lakes also above their targets for this time of year, as you can see, and part of this again has been with the recent wet weather. In Alabama, again, all the Alabama power reservoirs near or above their target pool. Good news for summer recreation and water resources. So with the recent wet weather, we had a period of river flooding last week, somewhat atypical for this time of year, as late April is generally a quiet period for rainfall and flooding in the southeast. But we do have some lingering flooding on the lower Santee there in South Carolina, as well as the lower PD River in South Carolina. Most of this is agricultural, farmland impacts in the floodplain. High water also remains as well in South Georgia and the lower Tombigbee and southwest Alabama. And so with the wet weather, stream flows are running near or above normal for most of the locations in the southeast. We're still seeing some below normal flows in the coastal Georgia and coastal South Carolina area, but as water routes down some of those bigger rivers with the recent event, these should come back to normal for a lot of those locations. So lots of those oranges there should turn to green in a week or so. But overall, drought holding down in South Florida, in that area that has seen less than a couple of inches in the past month, as well as the coastal plain of Georgia and South Carolina, where we see some severe drought. Keep in mind that this was last updated April 24th, before the recent rain event, and so we may see some alleviation to drought across this area in the next drought monitor update. Overall, recent rainfall in April has helped with keeping water resources in the good range. Will we see it stay in the good range through the summer? Todd and Chris will talk about this forecast moving forward.
We're beginning the short-term period with high pressure across the area, and this is going to persist through the short term. As a result, we can expect mostly dry conditions through the period, with just a few areas of rain well away from the center of the high. In the midterm period, we can expect a front to move into the area. This will bring rain to the southeast this weekend. The 7-day rainfall forecast shows rainfall that is mainly associated with the front this weekend. It's a ways out there still, so amounts will be refined as we get closer to this event. The long-term outlook calls for above normal precipitation amounts, primarily associated with the more unsettled weather pattern that we're expecting as we exit the midterm period.
Pacific temperatures are warming, and we are ending our La Nina from this winter and into the spring. Pacific temperatures will be warming through the summer and into the fall, but ENSO conditions will likely remain neutral through the end of the year, which means that ENSO conditions will not likely play a role in our forecast during that time. Temperatures during May likely to continue warm for the southeast. While it felt somewhat more cool in April than we have been used to, temperatures will likely stay above normal for May and beyond. Precipitation looks like it will stay wet through the southeast for the month of May, even though we will likely get started a little bit dry. Because we had such a wet April, it is possible that this could be more of a transition month with near normal conditions as we prepare for summer and showers and thunderstorm season, and tropical season as we get into June. Our seasonal outlook shows a very similar warm pattern for late spring and early summer, and the wetness creeps to the north, though, and only affects the Carolinas and Virginia in the southeast for the May through July timeframe. It looks like being warmer than normal will be a running theme through much of the rest of the year, as the August through October forecast remains warm. A shrinking area of rainfall for the late summer and early fall that only affects the eastern half of North Carolina and Virginia. And so the bottom line, in the short term, April showers brought some flooding and recharge of our reservoirs in the southeast and our groundwater, which is a lot of the reason that we didn't get to our water resources outlook until the end of the month. So a dry start to May, but it looks like a wet month overall based on the forecast right now. As for the long term, normal summer rainfall looks like on the way both in Florida and the rest of the southeast, with a little bit above normal precip in the Carolinas and Virginia in the early part of the forecast period. Above normal temps really across the whole period. Our next water resources outlook we expect to record on May 17th. At that time, we'll talk a little bit more about maybe the tropical season. We won't have our official forecast from the National Weather Service until late May, and we'll talk a lot more about that when we get to the June water resources outlook. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next month.